Hello, welcome to our first live chat for the year. This is Joy Dalla Fashion Guide. So there's something new on the channel. It has to do with membership, but right now it's like we're having issues with the join button. So just stay put. They are working on it. As soon as it comes up, I will let us know. We have 3 levels of membership. Okay, so you can be a part of the community, and of course, as members, there are certain things that you are entitled to. For example, we have loyalty badges, we have videos only, members only videos, members only shorts, we have shout outs, we have photos and status upload, and so on and so forth. There are so many things that you can enjoy as a member of the channel. So channel membership is on, but right now the join button is not showing, so they are working on it. So as soon as they are done with that, I will let you know. So for today, I'm going to be making a short with cargo pockets, a short pant. I'm going to be making a short pant with cargo pockets. Now, the way you attach cargo pocket to the pants is also the same way you would do if it was a skirt. Okay, someone requested that I make a video on cargo skirt, as in a skirt with cargo pockets. So they are actually the same way. My fabrics is not enough for me to make a long skirt, so I already plan to use this fabric for a short pant. So that is what I'm going to do right now. I'm wearing a short pants, so they are much easy and comfortable for me to wear. So I'm going to show you how to draft the pants. So we are working directly on our fabrics. We may have to take the sewing process offline, okay, or in another video. But for this live, I'll just show you how I cut it. Hello, Mrs. Kate. It's good to see you or to hear from you. And thanks, for your comments and your support. So without further ado, I'll just go straight to the fabric. So if you're watching me live and you've not joined this channel yet as a subscriber, I think this is a good point to join. And of course, I have several videos on my channel that can benefit you. So you can take a look at my channel, and of course, I know that videos there will bless you. Also, anytime you watch my videos, please kindly leave comments below in the comment section. This will help YouTube to push the video, okay? And also, just give me some thumbs up if you feel I deserve it. And you can as well share, the posts or the videos to others so that they too can see, what we have made, and they can also learn. So I'm using this place as my drafting table. So I'm going to be cutting the front pattern first. Now, I'll just quickly run you through the measurement I'm working with. It's a short pant, so it's going to stop around the knee area. Okay, so the length is going to be 21 inches, and then the waist circumference I'm working with is 37 inches, and then the waist of the hip is 8 inches. The hip circumference is 46 inches, and the thigh circumference is 30 inches. Okay, so the length of the short is going to be 21 inches, and then the circumference of the down part is going to be around 22 inches. So that is usually according to your preference. And this short pant is going to have the regular pockets as well as cargo pockets. The one I'm putting on just have the regular pocket. This one is a patch pocket. So it's going to have an inner pocket as well as a cargo pocket. So I'm just going to show you how I draft, okay? Like I said before, we will not do the sewing live, okay? But the cutting, why not? So I'm going to be cutting the front pattern first, and then to know the amount of fabric to put on fold. Remember, when we are cutting our patterns, we usually put them on fold, okay? So we are putting on fold because the front pattern has 2 legs. So that's why we are putting it on fold. And then to know the amount of fabric to fold, just use your thigh measurements, okay? Half of the thigh measurements. then you can add 1 inch, okay, if you intend to make it free. So that is how to know the amount of fabric that you put on fold, okay. So the tie I'm working with is 30 inches, 30 inches, and half of that will be 15 inches. Do you understand? So that is what I'm going to, that will be the width of the fabric, okay. So that means to cut the front, the total wideness will be 30 inches. Please, if you have any question, just type it below in the comment section. If I can't take it now, I'll take it later. So I'm just going to adjust my camera so that you can see the fabric that we are working with, okay. So this is the fabric that I'm working with. Now I'm going to be cutting the front pattern. I've folded like this now because of the quantity of fabric that I have. I've already measured it, okay. So that is why I'm folding like this. So this is 1 and then this is 2. So if you like, if you have enough fabric, you can fold yours like this instead, you know, folding into 2 like this. But for me, my into 2 is like this, okay, because I've already calculated the amount of fabric that I have and what it can cut. So it's very, very important, you know, before you start cutting, check the amount of fabric that you have, check if it will be enough for what you want to use it for, okay, so that you don't run short along the line. So this is for the front pattern, and then the width is going to be 15 inches. 15 inches is the width. So you can add seam allowance to that, you know, to be on the safe side, okay. So I'll just go ahead and mark 15 inches, and then my allowance will be on the back pattern. So I have my long ruler here, just join that together. So I'll go ahead and cut this out so that we'll see what we are working with. Okay. So this is both pattern. This is for the front pattern. And remember, we are cutting 2 because it's 2 legs. So that is why you should cut on fold. Okay, so this is the down part, the upper part. So this down part, I'm going to mark the folding allowance. So you can use any folding allowance of your choice. It can be 2 inches, 2.5, you know, and so on. So I'm using 2.5 inches. So this part is going to be the down part. So I will fold like this and then fold like this. Do you understand? So this is for the down part. So after marking the down part, the next thing is to mark the length of the short pants, the length. And I want my length to be 21 inches. The length is going to be 21 inches and it's going to have a band. Okay, the band is going to be 2 inches. So if you remove 2 inches from 21, you are going to have 19. Okay, so from this line here, I'll mark 19 inches. And of course, we also need ½ inch to join to the band. So I'm going to be marking 19.5 inches. So here I have 19.5. So let me just turn my tape this way. I hope you can see what I'm marking. Okay. So you're going to trim this part off. So this is now the waistline. This is the waistline. Okay. Now from the waistline, remember that the band is 2 inches. So I'll place my 2 inches on this mark. Okay. For it to be very, very clear, let me just mark the seam allowance that we are using to join the band, so that we'll be able to place we'll be able to place our tape very well. So this is the waistline, okay, and then we added 1/2 inch to join to the band. So if you want to place your tape on this second marking like this, because if you are joining the bands, you are going to join the band here. Okay, so from that point, that waistline, so this is our waistline. So from this waistline, with the tape still there, mark the hip, mark your hip line. So this is my hip line, which is 8 inches, and then I also mark the crotch depth. Okay. So to get your crotch depth, you can sit on a hard surface chair and measure where you usually place your shorts. From there, you measure it to the chair. Okay, or from your waistline, just measure it to the chair. Okay, and that will give you your crotch depth. Okay. Alternatively, you can also use quarter of your hip circumference. Okay, quarter of the hip circumference. So that would be where the tie line, the crotch depth will be. And then 2 inches from there is the tie line. So I just repeat the lines this way so that I can have a straight line. So from the crotch depth, you can just take 2 inches downwards, and that will give you your tie line. So far we have the waistline, we have the hip line, we have the crotch line, then we have the tie line. Okay, I hope you are following. So I already told you how I got the crotch line. You can use your hip circumference divided by 4, or you just simply measure. Now the next thing that we are going to impute now is quarter of the hip circumference on the hip line. Quarter of the hip circumference. So you just go ahead and impute quarter of the hip circumference. Now if you want to add ease allowance, to your measurement, this is when you should do it. Okay, so my quarter of the hip, I'm working with hip 46, and quarter of that is 11.5. Okay, so I can go ahead and just add ease of 1/2 inch. So I'm marking at 12 inches. So on the hip line, I'll mark 12 inches. So the ease is optional, and then I'll repeat that same marking on the crotch line, the same 12 inches. I also mark it on the waistline, so I just take it across. So I'll connect that with my ruler. Okay, now to get the extension here, there are different ways you can do it. First is to measure what you have from here to here. measure what you have from here to here and divide it by 4. So right now I have 12. So when you divide 12 by 4, you have 3 inches, and then you go ahead and mark 3 inches. So as you can see, I have 3 inches. And then alternatively, you can use half of the thigh measurement. Half of the thigh measurement. I'm working with a thigh of 30 inches, and half of that is 15 inches. So either way, you will still get it, okay? And then to get how to curve this crouch line, on this place you just mark 2 inches. You mark 2 inches from the crouch line upwards. Mark 2 inches, and then you come out from that mark by quarter. You come out by quarter of an inch, okay? And then this corner here, you will place your tape diagonally like this and mark 1 inch, at the corner. Let me rule the corner so that you will see it. This corner, see this corner. So you place your tape on it and make sure that the length from this corner outward is 1 inch. So that is where the curve is going to pass through. So even with your free hand, you can just connect this like this. From this quarter that you came out, you just connect it into that 1 inch and then blend it into this line here like this. So even without the ruler, you can do this, and then just blend this into the main body like this, okay? So that is how to use your free hand to cut the curve. Then you can also use your French curve if you have one. You see, with the French curve, you see, it's just exact. So once we are through with that, we come to the thigh line. This is the thigh line. Remember that our thigh is 15 inches, okay? 15 inches. Now you can get the middle of this thigh. This thigh line, get the middle. The middle of 15 will be 7.5, or simply just fold your tape into 2 and mark like this, okay? So this is important in order to position the down part of the pants, okay? To position it, to make sure that it is central. So you can go ahead and also mark the down part. So half of 15 is 7.5. So I'll just connect that. And then we can impute the down part. Remember that you are going to fold it through here, okay? So when we want to cut, we just fold this down part. This is the folding allowance. You will see why we are folding it. I will show you why after cutting. Now, the width of this down part, you determine it, okay? For some 24, that will now be 12, okay? For some 22, that will now be 11. So if you are marking 11, you share 11 into 2. Put half of it this way, half of it this way, okay? So right now I'm having 7.5 on one side, 7.5 on the other side. So alternatively, you can decide to just go in by 1 inch, go in by 1 inch, or go in by 1.5, go in by 1.5, depending on the wideness of the down part that you want, okay? So I'll be going for 5.5. That is 11, okay? So the down part of mine is actually 22. So 22 is the circumference of the down part, and by the time you divide that by 2, you are going to have 11. And then to make sure that it is central, we'll share the 11 into 2. We put half this way, half this way, okay? So I have 5.5 this way. then 5.5 also this way. So the next thing is to connect. I'll connect this down part, I'll connect it to the tie. Okay, then I also connect this part. Remember that we already have a measurement for our tie. Okay, so we have gotten our shape. So the next thing is to come to the waistline. Now, if the shorts you want to have a elastic band on the waist, then you just leave the waistline the way it is right now. Remember that we use quarter of the hip line. We measure quarter of the hip line also on the waistline. So if you intend to use elastic, then we are done with the front pattern. We'll just go ahead and cut. But before we cut, this crotch line, we're just going to put the seam allowance of 1/2 inch. So I just mark 1/2 inch seam allowance, so that when we are sewing on exactly this line. If you don't put the seam allowance, that means when you want to sew, you're going to shift inside by 1/2 inch. So just put the seam allowance of 1/2 inch. So when you are cutting, you will not cut on this line, you come out with 1/2 inch. I hope it is clear. So I'm going to cut from here like this to the top. Okay, and then one more thing, I'm going to be I'm going to be using a waistband for this. Okay, a waistband. Okay, so the waist I'm working with is 37. So I'm going to divide that by 4. So you pick your tape like this. You first of all divide by 2, and then divide that again to get your into 4. Okay, and whatever you have, you mark it from this original line. Mark it from here this way. And then I'm not going to have that. If you want to add that to your own, then you add the dart allowance of 1 inch. You add that allowance of 1 inch before you connect to the hip line. Okay, before you connect to the hip line. I'll just use broken lines for that because that is not what I want to use. Before you now connect to the hip line like this. Okay, but if you are using the exact without that, then just mark your exact. Then we're going to connect that to our hip line. I hope you understand. So the use of that is optional. Okay, so you just blend this in. We will not have straight like this. When we are cut, we'll blend it in. And then this waistline will come down by 1 inch. Will come down by 1 inch so that the pant can sit very well. And then you remember that we had our seam allowance. Okay, so that means you are going to come down by 1/2 inch. Do you understand? The 1/2 inch is to join to the band. So from this 1/2 inch, I will slant it to this original waist. I'll slant it like this. I hope you know why I use the 1/2 inch, because of our band. So I'm slanting it. So that is all for the front pattern. So the next thing now is just to cut it out. So like I said, this down part, this seam, this folding allowance part, you fold it in before you cut. we'll use one of these for the zipper fly. So this is our front pattern. So by the time we open this down part, you see the way the shape have come out. So that is why it was important to fold it. If I had cut this straight, the down part would have shortened the down part. And of course, this part, just blend it in. Blend it in. So this is the front pattern. So you see, when you want to sew, you just sew on this line. We're going to just sew on this line like this. Okay, if we had not added the half-inch seam allowance, when we want to sew, we would have shifted inside, and that will affect the measurements. So we'll go ahead now and now cut the back pattern. So this side here, it should not be too curvy, so just try to blend it in. Don't worry, the seam allowance of the back part will cover up. Remember that we added half-inch extra allowance to our measurements. Okay, so we are done with the front pattern. I'll come back to show you how to cut the inner pocket for the front and then the fly. So let's cut the back. The back is very, very easy. Once you get your front pattern, the back pattern is very, very easy. So this is the fabric we are using. So for this back pattern, I'm not going to fold it the proper way. So remember, I folded like this because of the amount of fabric that I have. Okay, so the back pattern, I will fold it. I can now go ahead and fold like this. So if you have enough pattern, if you have enough fabric, so it's like this, you're supposed to fold the front pattern. Like this. Okay, and then the front pattern should be more than the back pattern with at least 2 inches, 2 to 3 inches, depending on your size. Let's just say with 3 inches. It should be more than the front pattern with 3 inches. So remember that the front pattern, I use 15 inches wide. Okay, so for the back pattern, I'll be using 18 inches. So let's measure what we have here. Right now I have 19 inches. So it's okay, I can always trim off the excess. Okay, so I just fold it, and then I'm going to place the front pattern on it. Okay, now before I place my front pattern on it, I'm going to be adding, I'm going to be adding seam allowance to the sides. Okay, for the crotch line, I will also extend it. Right now, here was 3 inches. So for the back, you can use 2.5 inches. Okay, 2.5 inches. And then for the other parts, you can use 2 inches. Okay, so since I'm using 2.5 and then 2 inches, from this side, I'm just going to mark 2.5 inches inward so that it will be easy. I'm just going to show you an easy way to cut the back pattern. So I'm just marking 2.5. This is an easy way to mark the back pattern. If you are using 2 inches, mark 2 inches all through. Then after marking, let me confirm what I have here. So I'm using 2.5 inches as my seam. The next thing, I will now place the front pattern on it. So I'll make sure that this down part, they correspond with the down. Like this, it should correspond. Okay, and then these parts, I just make sure that it aligns. So this is now the crotch line. This is the hip line. The thigh line. So once you have put it out like this, this upper part, I'm going to extend it upwards for the butt allowance, your bum allowance. So I'm going to be using 1.5 inches. Remember that we've already slanted here down by 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'll use 1.5. So this depends on how big your butt is. For small bum, you just use 1 inch. But I'm using 1.5. And for a bigger bum, you can use 2 inches. So I've come up, by 1.5 inches. Okay, and then I will slant it to the waistline. Remember, this is our waistline. Let me extend it to. So this is the waistline. So I'll just slant it from here to this point, like this. This is the waistline. So that by the time we shift it inside, see, we will not have our allowances on this side. We will not have our allowances on this side. Do you understand? So let me take it back so that we can cut the crotch line. So make sure that your fabric is aligned. Position it very well. Please, if you have any question, you are free to ask. Position it very well. Then you can just use pin to secure it. You can use pin to hold both of them together. Okay, and then the next thing is to cut. Sorry, not this. So I'll just cut along what I have here. So this is what we have. Of course, we are going to open up the side. So by the time we shift it inside, like this, by the time we shift it in, our seam will now be on this side. Can you see? Our seam allowance is now on this side. Do you see that? So you can always adjust this part for it to be the 2 inches. So if I measure what I have, and I'm going to have like 2.5. You see, that is the 2.5 that I have. 2.5. The same thing with this side. Okay. So I can decide to take off. Remember, it's because of this part that we added the 2.5. Because of this extension here. Okay, so you can decide to now trim off the excess, that is with the 1/2 inch excess. So having taken it in, then now go ahead and shape the side. So this is an easy way to cut a short pant. This is an easy way to cut it. So like I said, you can take a 1/2 inch out here. So we'll trim off this excess that is here. The same thing with this upper part. Go ahead and trim off the 1/2 inch excess. And just blend it in. Or you can leave it and do that later. Okay, so you can go ahead and trim off the excess. Make sure you blend it in, you will not get down. So that is all for our pattern. So let's cut the pockets. We are going to have 2 types of pockets. So this is our back pattern. So we are now going to cut the inner pockets. So the inner pocket, or the first pocket, the length is going to stop around 10 inches. Okay, and then the cargo pocket will now start from there. Okay, The height will be around the 9 inches. So if you like, you can leave half inch seam, you can leave half inch, in between. So to cut the inner pocket, the wideness, you can use 7 inches as the wideness, or 6 inches. You can use 6 inches so that it will follow here. Let me just sketch how where the pocket will follow. 6 inches, just follow somewhere here and stop on this crotch line. So the pocket, so if you follow like this, is going to be the size of the pocket. But then you put your hands. Do you understand? So let's cut the pocket. Remember that I'm also going to cut our band from here. So let me cut it like this. I'm going to be using 10 inches, or let's say 10 and a half, plus seam allowance. Okay, so let's cut 11. And then the width is 7 inches. Okay, so let's cut it out. So I have 11 inches. So I'll use this to cut the second pocket. So we'll use this for our band. If it's not long enough, then we'll not cut the band once. We can join it. We can cut it in a way that it will have joining. Right now I'm having 38 inches long. Okay, so I may need to add to join here to have the length that I want. So I may cut this and just add it. So we'll settle the band when we are sewing. If you are finding this useful, kindly subscribe if you are yet to subscribe, and don't forget to leave comments in the comment section. Also give me a thumbs up, like, and then you can also share to others later. So when you are cutting, make sure that your cutting is straight. You can always straighten it. So this is both pockets. Now I'm going to show you how to cut the pockets. Now the wideness of my pocket, I don't want it to be too open, so I'm going to be using, you see this hip line that I have here? Right now I have, I don't want it to be too open, so I'll just make use of this line that I have here, or I'll stop at 6 inches. So let's say here 6 inches. Usually our pocket is 7 inches deep. But I don't want that to be too open, so it's according to preference. And then I'll go in by 1.5 inch. So you can decide the shape that your pocket will have. It can be straight. It can be straight like this, or you can also decide to slant it. So you can also slant it. So it depends on what you want. Okay, so I've gone in by 1.5. For some, they go in by 2 inches, but I think this 1.5 is okay. And then you can notch this point, or just simply give it a cut. So you're going to be cutting this part out, and then we'll replace it with this pocket bag. So I'll show you how to do that. So let me cut it out. Okay. So this part, you can just notch it small. Then on this one, just open it up, place it over each other like this. And then there are 2 ways you can do it. You can use this piece to cut it. This piece. Or you simply use the pocket to trace it. So let's do it one after the other. I'll just take one. It's going to be on it. It's going to be inside like this. It's going to be like this. Okay. It's going to be on it like this. So cut the main one that will be showing inside, the main fabric. The main fabric will be showing, and then this inner one will be under. Right now it's like this. Let me use the right side so that you understand what I'm talking about. So you see this, pockets. You see this pocket. So it's going to be on it like this. It's going to be on it like this. So that by the time we cut, we'll cut on just this one. And then this part will now, will now complete the pocket. So if you want to cut, place it on it like this. And then make sure you are cutting this first part. This first part alone. Like this. So you cut. So you can notch here to know where you're going to end when you fold it. You can notch here. And then you can also give here a notch. Okay, so you see this is now the pocket piece inside. So you go ahead and cut the second one like that. So let me just cut it the same way. This is the second one. And it's also going to be like this. The right side should be on it like this, and you place it in. You place it in like this. Alternatively, you can use this one to cut this. So there are always alternative ways of doing things. So you see, you also raise this upper part. This is the one you are going to cut. You will not cut this down one. Do you see that? So at the back, this is what it's going to look like. So we are going to be joining here together. So I'll just use my pin to hold that in place. So to sew the pocket, this front pocket is very, very easy. Remember, this is just drafting alone. So I'm not going to be sewing, but I'll just explain how to sew this pocket. So sew this pocket, you bring it out like this. You see, we are going to now stitch here close, okay? And then you can also give here a little curve. This corner, you can curve it. You can curve this corner like this. Do you see that? If you like, you can do the same to this corner as well. So you pick it. Remember, this is the right side. This is the wrong side. This is the wrong side. So if you want to sew the pocket, you place it on it like this. So that when you finish, we are going to end like this. Do you understand? So if you want to sew, you place this over this. So the right side are now facing each other. You place it on it. You place it on it like this. Okay? And then you stitch with 1/2 inch. You stitch with 1/2 inch. Or let's say 1/4 of an inch. You can use 1/4 of an inch. And stitch with 1/4 of an inch. After stitching, you notch it, or you can use 1/2 inch. Okay, depending on the inch you always use to sew. After stitching, then you will notch it, and then you flip it to this side, and now under stitch. So let me use pin to just hold it down and show you. So you sew. Then you now take it to this side. You now under stitch on this one. Okay, so this one will now come in. At the end of the day, it's going to be inside like this, and now stay like this. Do you understand? It will now stay like this. So you stitch here down to hold it in place. And then you also stitch here down to hold it in place. You stitch here to hold it in place. You also stitch here to hold it in place. But before then, make sure that you have already sewn here. You sew here. You sew it to this point, and then you now stitch it down here. Okay, so that is how to sew the inner pocket. You do the same to this other pocket. Now, the next thing I'll quickly talk about now is the cargo pocket. I already have the cargo pocket piece cut out. So this is for the cargo pocket piece. Now the length of this cargo pocket piece, the width is, let's say 12 and a half. 12 and a half. Let me measure this one. Two of them are supposed to be the same. Okay, 12 and a half. And then the height is 9 and a half. 9 and a half inches. Now, then this is the cover of the cargo pocket. The cover. I've already folded this. Okay, initially it was like this. So unfold. You pick your fabric. You fold the fabric into two. That is, you pick fabric like this, fold it into two like this. When you fold it into two, the wideness will be 8 inches, and then the length will be 3 inches. You can use 3 inches. Okay, right now I'm having 3 1/4, or let's say 3 1/2. I'll measure it again. It's supposed to have 3 inches. I'm going to trim off the excess. Okay, so you fold it, then you stitch here down half inch. After stitching half inch, you now notch it. You notch this corner, and then you now fold it in, inside out. You bring it inside out like this. I have a video on how to sew cargo pockets, so you can also watch that video. So you bring it out like this. I'm going to end with 3 inches, so I'll trim off the excess later. Okay, I'll trim off the excess and end with 3 inches. Just straighten this. So you can also iron first before you cut. That way to just lay flat. So I'm going to do the same to this one. So by the time you finish folding and you iron it, so the wideness now is now going to be what? 7 inches. The wideness will be 7 inches. We are going to be stitching. By the time you stitch half inch, we will now end with 2 1/2 like this. Here will now be 2 1/2. So this one, this bigger piece, what you are going to do, you will fold it into two. Remember that the width of this was 12, let's say 12 1/2. You can use 12 1/2 inches or 12 inches. Okay, so let me just go for, so this is 12 1/2. The fabric is not straight. You have to make sure that your fabric is straight. So let's go for 12 inches. So let me straighten the fabric. I'm going for 12 inches. I'll just trim this off. Now, to sew the cargo pocket, I'm going to fold. This is the right side, this is the wrong side. This is the wrong side. Okay, so I'll fold it into two like this. I fold it into two like this. Remember that the width that we want is 7 inches. I'm just checking something. Okay, so I'll go in by 2 inches. I'll mark 2 inches. 2 inches. I'll go in by 2 inches. And then from the top, I'll stop at 1.5 inch. I'll do the same to this down part, 1.5 inches. So I'll stitch here. I'll stitch this 1.5. I'll stitch it down. Let me use pin to hold it for you to see. I'll stitch that part down. I will not sew this middle, okay? So you go ahead and iron it, so that by the time we finish, you're going to have something like this. So you iron it. It will stay on the back side. It will stay like this. You bring it down like this. You iron it. Okay, my iron is not here. That's why I said we'll do another video for the sewing. So iron it down like this. Let me just use pin to hold it down. So by the time we iron it down, this is how the front will look like. The front will have this small space like this. Okay, that is what we want. And then we want to end with 7 inches. Okay, we want to end with 7 inches. So you can mark like this, and then the remaining one is going to be the folding allowance. Okay, so that means we now fold here in with, let's say, 1/4 inch. So you check what you have. You fold here in, you iron it, you fold here in, 1/4, you iron it. So by the time you fold both sides, you will have the wideness of the cover. And then you also fold the down. You fold the down in. You fold it down in like this. You iron it. Then this upper part, you also fold it. So we should end with, so you can end with 8.5 inches or 8 inches. So let's say 8.5 inches. So this upper part, you also fold it down. You also fold in this upper part. Now when you fold in the upper part like this, you can put hemi glue. You put hemi glue here and iron it so that it lays flat, because no seam will be showing here. Okay, and then we now fold here 1/4. We fold here down 1/4. We fold this side 1/4. We fold it down 1/2 inch. So at the end of the day, we now have something like this as the pockets. Something like this. And then this will now be the cover. This will now be the cover. Okay, so that is cargo pockets. So if you want to attach this cargo pockets, you first of all join the front pattern and the back pattern. So if you want to join the cargo pockets, you take one piece of the front, one piece of the back. I'm just explaining because I'm not going to do the sewing on live. The sewing will be on another video. So you take the side like this, you put it together, make sure that it matches. That's after I've already sewed the pocket. That's why I'm using this one that I've explained the pocket already. So you match the sides. You join with 1/2 inch, same allowance. I just want to show you how to position the cargo pocket so that it will be easy for you. So you join it like this. So you can trim off the excess that you have there. Just make sure that your pockets lay very well, and then you can now trim off the excess. Okay, so you pin, and then you now stitch with 1/2 inch. So after sewing, you are going to open it up like this. You open it up, so you see this pocket, this inner pocket is inside, and take note of where the inner pocket stop. It stops somewhere here. Sorry, looking for my chalk. It stops somewhere here. So if you measure that from the top, it should be around, okay, so it is around 11.5 inch. So this is going to be the center. So this folded, this part will correspond to this middle part. So it's going to be on it like this. Okay, so position it such that it will not affect your down folding. So it can end on the same line as your down folding. Our down folding is going to be somewhere here. So you can always adjust it, and then the pocket can just end there like this. Okay, so I can adjust this one a little. Remember, if you want to sew, you have to open here up. Okay, so you now stitch. You sew from here like this. Now you will not sew here. Here is the pocket. You sew from here to this point that you folded in. So you sew like this. You come across to this side. Remember, this side is folded in, and then you come and end here. Okay, and then for the cover, you place it on it like this first. Place it on it like this. You can leave a space like 1/2 inch space before you position it. You place it on it like this, and then you stitch. You stitch quarter. You can stitch 1/4 inch. You stitch quarter. And then after stitching quarter, I'm just using pin to hold it in place. You now flip it down like this, and make sure that it now covers this one that you have sewn. That is why we are leaving space here. So it's that space you are going to now sew. You now place it on it like this. Okay, and then you now sew. So you now sew in between. So by the time you stitch, you will no longer see that quarter anymore. It will now be like this. So you stitch it down like this. You sew here down. So if you like, you can use your threads to just design your pocket, by stitching. That is on the pocket now. Before you place the pocket on it, you can decide to just use your thread to sew line here. You can top stitch here. So at the end of the day, these are the pocket to be, the cargo pocket to be like. I hope we know how to sew zipper flyer. So I've not explained that, but you can check my video on how to sew a zipper flyer. This life is already very, very long. I didn't intend it for it to be so long, so I just wanted to do just the drafting. So these are the pockets will look like. You have the inner pocket, then you open it, and the cargo pocket will be here. Okay, and then a zipper flyer will come later. The waistband will come later. I hope you find this live video, I hope you find it interesting. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and please leave comment below in the comment section. Sikad, hi Sikad. Kate, I don't know if you are still online. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Sikad, for watching. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. Okay. If you like this my neck, neck cape, I have a video on my channel on how to sew this neck cape. Don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to subscribe, and please share my video so that others can get to see this video. So this year we'll be calling it a day. So the video of this sewing, I'm going to have a video of how I sew this this particular shirt. Okay, so just look out for the video. All right, bye.